G'day and welcome to the Hunters Campfire podcast. My name's Mark and along with good mate Ian, we're here to help with all things hunting. If you're looking to start but don't know where to begin, you want to make the most of your next trip away or even plan that hunt of a lifetime, we've got something for you. You'll find our podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon and plenty of others. And if you want more, head over to our YouTube channel, The Hunters Campfire, where we have plenty of how-to and hunting videos along with the full video production of every podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good hunting.
Yep, I can do it.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Good evening to all our listeners, and good evening to our guest tonight, Zach, and of course, good evening to Ian as well. How are you guys?
G'day, yeah, good, thank you.
Cool.
Good, Mark, thanks.
I see you wearing...
Yeah?
I see you wearing the shirt. Draw attention to that shirt, please.
Yes, here, look, my new Hunters Campfire branded shirt. We're getting a couple of these done just to make ourselves look smart. It's funny, I posted a video up and I was wearing it and I had a number of inquiries as to how I can get my hands on one of those shirts. So maybe we'll throw a few out in the community as well. We'll see. It wasn't the intention.
Yeah, look, merch is good. There's one here actually. So we actually do. We have one that we could probably release to the public right now. So I think we should figure out how to do that. I'm not exactly sure. How they do those kind of things on Facebook where it's like the random generator. We need something like that to figure out how to do it. I've got no idea.
Yeah, unfortunately, we'll have to random generate anyone in an XL size shirt.
Yes.
Right, so we're narrowing down the pool of listeners pretty fast.
That's why I'm not. That's why I'm giving away, because it's way too big for me. So
yeah, apologies for that. I thought you were a larger man than you were.
Yeah, I'm just a wafer, girly wafer the thing. So I don't fit into these little, tent like garments. So Zach, how are you this evening?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Kids are asleep and getting ready for the arvo or the night.
I'm actually drawn to that really interesting skull behind you.
This one just here, yep.
Yeah, that one. What's that?
That's a deadhead fallow I found that snapped.
Oh, wow.
He's got one side fully grown out, and then he's only got the front tine coming out the top where he's snapped off at the skull, and it's regrown.
Wow, that's really interesting, isn't it? So it's actually, that's a regrowth. That's not the snap point there.
No, that's the regrowth point where he's just kept his front tine at the start.
Oh, okay. So is there a coronet at all, or is it just coming straight out?
No, it's just the tine.
Oh,
All the rest of the coronet's gone.
Imagine seeing that one.
Put that up.
Imagine seeing that one going through the scrub. You're going, hang on, what's going on? Is it cast already?
Well, funny story. I was on a hunt down in Hanging Rock near Nundle. Would have been 2 or 3 ruts ago, and a good friend of mine went down into this deep, dark, gnarly gully, and I was hunting on the ridge just above it, and he nailed quite a nice buck down in the bottom of that. He had dodgy shoulders at the time, so of course he's straight on the two-way to me saying, "Can you come and help me haul this thing out after dark?" The nice fella that he is blew my hunt, and off I went to help him, which was all fine because that's what you do for your mates, right? Until the next night when he went down there and another buck had taken over his patch straight away, as they do. But anyway, boom, the 280 went off in the gully below me. I thought, he's done it again, the bastard. On the radio, yeah, sorry, mate, I've done another one. Can you come down? I think I've stuffed this one up, though. What are you talking about? Get down there. This thing's only got 1 palm. It was a nice palm, but yeah, it had obviously smashed one off by fighting recently because it was a recent break off. But yeah, so we had to drag, half a head up the hill, which was just a great way to end the night. But these things happen.
The only time I've ever actually lined up on a 6.6, I realized after about an hour and a half of approaching it was that the whole beam was split. It's been fighting it, and it split it down the beam, but it hadn't sheared away. But so it was almost like it had 3 antlers.
Yeah, wow.
It was split, and I thought, nah, I'll let him. I'll let him go, and so he can get poached off the road later on by someone in the spotlight. But because we are talking the Brisbane Valley, so that's what probably happened to him. But I just went, oh God, no! You can see it's just damaged. And that was the only time I've ever seen one like that. I've seen fallows have been cracked, but I've never seen one like that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, fallow go pretty hard during the rut.
Yeah.
They're hardest fighting deer, that's for sure.
You seen that video of the fellow beating up the pig?
Yeah.
The pig, no.
Yeah, it's on the Facebook page. There's a big Euro boar too. It's a big Euro boar and a big, palmy Euro fallow, and they're basically tussling, and then eventually the fallow gets it on the pig and chases it off. And I just think because it just had the range, just the pig just couldn't get anywhere near it. And those skinny little legs must have some iron in them because it was pushing this thing around. That pig was no small pig either.
There's a good video of a cow and a ram going at it.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the ram just knocks the cow completely out. Just drops it on the spot.
I haven't seen that.
Nature's nuts,
it's
man.
priceless.
It's just crazy what will take on what, right? The big buck thinks he's the biggest. He's the biggest of his own species. He just thinks he's the king shit of the world. He'll take on anything. It's hilarious. Anyway, hey, before we get too much into the Zach story, I just wanted to ask a few questions, just for a few things that had come up that I'd seen over the week, and a couple of questions from listeners. Zach, I don't know if you remember the Australian Deer Association at all, eh?
No, I'm not a member of the ADA.
No, that's all right. So you wouldn't have got the latest Deer Mag, I assume. But in that, Mark, I don't know if you've read that one yet.
Yeah. Are you talking about the article in it?
No,
not. Oh, okay.
No. Well, there is an article in it that I was interested in. I was listening to the Meat Eater podcast during the week, and on the same day that I was listening to that, they were talking about how whitetail are becoming a major COVID spreader problem. Did you read that article? Yeah. The same day I listened to that, this magazine came out and had an article in it about that. I just thought it was an interesting topic that over there, given that whitetail are so prolific, that they're concerned that they're going to become the sleeper cell for the virus, and it's already being seen as transmitting between animal and humans. It's just a bizarre thing I never expected to happen.
I was listening to something about that some time ago, and I can't think of what it was, but they reckon that it's in this particular one. They were saying that they're pretty sure that it's been around in deer for a very long time. It's not something. It's one of the things they got.
Well, what they were talking about on the Meat Eater podcast was that they've been testing the deer for the last 20-ish years. So they've actually been able to go back over those records and see what they've actually had, and know the COVID has only just started popping up in the deer populations over the last couple of years.
Okay.
But scary, if that's the case. It's interesting, though, that it's only whitetail and none of the other species.
That they've picked up on, but zoo animals have been dying all around the world from it. You look at the mink farm populations in Europe, they had to pull them out, and there's been tigers and lions and all sorts of zoo animals dying from it.
In Hong Kong, they're killing all the hamsters.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And there people are hiding them. They kill my hamster. Hiding their hamster from the secret, police coming around and kick your door in and throw your hamster in a meat grinder or something. I don't know. But
dogs and cats at the start of COVID over there. They killed all the dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Unreal. Oh, just an interesting thing that I heard in two places on the same day. I'd not heard of it before that. So I thought that was kind of cool. Well, not cool. Hopefully it doesn't come here and harass our deer. Because we don't. Yeah. Oh, you wouldn't want to be cutting them up, would you? Knowing that that's an easily transmittable virus to take home to your family.
Yeah, but is it transmittable once they're dead?
Aerosol based. So I don't think you'd have too much of an issue.
Yeah, is it
molecules out of the the breathing? It's more EHD and stuff. You'd want to be careful of what they're dealing with.
Yeah, which is that wasting disease or whatever it is. Yeah.
Wasting disease.
Again, that's whitetail, right? They seem to be susceptible to that. There was also bovine influenza or something like that they're getting a lot of, things like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just one of those things that crossed my desk while I should have been working, and I was I was reading all about this. One of the questions that came up, just to another subject, one of the questions that came in from one of our listeners the other day, and we threw this at you over email, Zach, and that was I think it did come to you, yeah, and that was about how long bow hunters should take between putting an arrow into an animal and following it up. I have my own opinions on this, and there's quite a few different opinions on this, but what's your take on that, given that you're into archery?
My take is it just depends on the situation, really. The terrain, how far you can see, and where the shot was. I've shot deer with a bow and they've died within 10 seconds and they've ran straight at me and you can walk up straight away. If you go a liver shot, it's going to take a little bit longer. Give it, there's a couple of hours that you can give it. It just depends on where you are and what's around, the temperature, all of that type of stuff. Head downhill towards water after that.
Pretty much how it works. Are you of a mind, though, that you should give that animal the time after the first shot, if you think that it's a good shot, just to leave it, let it settle? I mean, it's a completely different way of taking an animal. A rifle and a bullet is power and pressure and carnage, whereas an arrow is deep cuts and lacerations. So it's a different type of kill.
Yeah, it kills by hemorrhaging. But
it bleeds out.
It just depends,
doesn't it?
Yeah. It just depends on where you hit it and what you can see. If you can see 200 meters in the direction it went, and you can see it drop and just die, no problems going straight up to it.
Sure.
Where if you're in, tight scrub and you don't hear the crashing, sit down, have a smoko, have something to eat, go through your snacks, have a drink, because bow hunting, you get quite out of breath, no matter if it's flat down, like you just get very, very excited. So just let yourself calm down and then, give it a little bit of time if you can't see.
I was thinking about this one because one first thing was when the guy said, wait time, I went, what's that? What do you mean wait?
The rifle hunter. Yeah.
What am I waiting for? But then I think it was actually Tony said this some time ago, and I think he said it on one of his videos, and I'm going to credit it to him, is that if you shoot something or you arrow it and it's on the ground and you walk up to it and it's prey, so it's an animal that's a prey animal, and and the predator, you have taken it out and it's still alive when you walk up to it, the amount of adrenaline that's going to slam through that body as it's dying, because it goes into this, here comes the predator, is actually, you're actually putting it in a massive amount. You're increasing the shock of what it's going through as it's dying. So, you're actually, if you're thinking about meat or all that stuff, you're probably making that whole situation a whole lot worse. And you're also stressing that animal out, as it's dying. So, just kind of standing back and letting it die outside of it, being it's outside of its range of vision or where it's looking, is probably a good idea anyway. Just let it expire and then approach it. So, when he was talking about wait time, I thought, it's probably, whilst there's, and because the reader had like a list and it said, if you shoot it here, it's this many hours and things like that. But I suppose you're right. It all comes down to exactly what happens on the time when you go to when you land the arrow and all that stuff. But waiting's probably a really good idea anyway. Just waiting it out anyway. I know Adrian used to say 2 smokes. He used to say, after you've done your shot, have 2, because Adrian smokes. So he said, sit down and have 2 smokes. Don't have 1 smoke, have 2, so have a smoke and then have another smoke and then
imagine
approach.
That if I just shot a deer with a bow. I'll be sucking those suckers back so fast.
That's 1. That's 2. Let's go. But that idea that idea of just waiting for a period of time is probably a very good habit to build anyway.
Yeah, it's one thing. It's your safety as well. You know, you shoot something with antlers; they're basically swords growing out of their head. If they're not down, you can end up on the bad side of those antlers, as some hunters do. Whether it's deer or scrub bulls or buffalo or whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, there's hunters every year that get done in the States by elk antlers and all of that. But yeah, it all depends on the shot. A lot of those wait time things come from American sources.
Exactly where it came from.
They tend to shoot pretty far back compared to us. We like to tuck it in, right behind the shoulder there, where they'll tend to go back more towards like back of the lungs and liver, because they get less meat wastage. So that's why, though.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, I think when I was looking at that list, seasonal conditions come into play, because I've been watching I think it's called The Hunting Public, and they'll, not often, but there is instances where they'll hit an animal and they'll go back and check on the video and say, oh yeah, we got it, and then go back and it's frozen, or it's close to frozen. The meat's completely okay, so there's been no issue about it's not 34 degrees, then the thing's basically spoiled. So I suppose that has a lot to do with it too. If I shot an animal and I followed the instructions and I waited 8 hours to follow it up, what you found after 8 hours, if it was dead, probably wouldn't be worth doing much with anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if it's too hot, or if you've got other predators in the area. In the States they got coyotes and all of that. If you shoot something and leave it 8 hours, you're not going to have anything left.
That's right. Yeah. Any other questions, Ian, from the listeners?
Yeah. So there was one that came up. Well, before I move on to that, I just say that question came in from Michael. Michael was one of the podcast listeners who's been intently listening to our podcasts around Severn State Forest specifically, and I think he said he lives down the Gold Coast. I'm pretty sure that was his third trip to Severn in almost as many weeks, following some of the advice that we'd given. And he managed to take his first ever public land animal this week. Was kind enough to share the moment with us, sent the photos, the excitement and everything along with it, along with that question, because he was a little bit distressed, I think, that he'd shot this animal with the bow. It seemed to be a good shot, but it didn't die instantly like you would expect sometimes with a rifle, especially goats. They're pretty soft animals. And that was where the question around wait times came from, because he was second guessing himself as to whether he'd done the wrong thing, hit it the wrong way, whether he should have chased it and had it, put another arrow into it, which is probably not what we want to do, things like that. So good shout out to Michael anyway for getting his first one after listening into all of the information. And yeah, hopefully he gets a bit from answering that.
He gets his t-shirt.
He gets the t-shirt. Hopefully
he gets the t-shirt. There we go.
All right. If he listens to this, he can send your details and mate, we'll get it out to you. Okay, moving on. Next question that came in was around reloading. Now I'm going to read the question just so that I get it right. It was well written. You reached out to your listeners in one of your podcasts about topic material that you asked hunters might like to hear about. One topic I'm interested in you and Mark discussing are your thoughts about the hunter transition from factory ammunition to reloading for hunting and why we do it. Specifically, given factory ammunition will give the hunter typically one MOA, is it that we don't like throwing away our brass? What are the pros and cons of reloading from a hunter-centric perspective, etc.? That's pretty much the... Oh, there's a bit more here. If the hunter is thinking about this transition, because of the many boxes of empty factory brass that he's got, what is the starting point for the hunter who is thinking about getting into reloading and hunting? Now, I asked this question earlier with any of you are reloaders. Mark, you're the closest thing to a reloader who's given up. That might answer the question. Most of my hunting friends are reloaders. I confess to being too lazy to do it. I'm a deer hunter. I'm not a feral controller. I'm not out there, blazing away with, 30 or 40 rounds a session, where you might be if you're culling things. So by the time my rifle's zeroed in, then it might get maybe 1 or 2 rounds put through it. If we have a club day at the range, I'll put a couple through to participate. But if that doesn't happen, it goes back in the safe. And then the next time I go hunting, I put a round in it. And if I shoot a deer, I shoot a round. And I could use a box of ammo in 3 years under that scenario or more. So I don't see the cost benefit of reloading, given that if you find the right factory round for your rifle, and sometimes it can take a bit of time at the range to find the right one that suits your rifle. By the time you've found it, we're looking for kill accuracy of a much larger area than if you're trying to put holes through your bullet holes at the range on paper, which is where I would see that you'd want to tune your round to your rifle even more. But you're not going to be getting that sort of consistency out of a hunting rifle, because we're looking for super lightweight. It's thinner metal. It's not a varmint barrel, or it's not a range rifle. So I don't see the point personally. Lots of my friends do, and there's an argument to the other direction. That's my piece on that. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, it just depends on how much you're shooting, whether, the time versus reward, really. If you're shooting, like you said, I'm a hunter as well, so I shoot, maybe 20 rounds a year out of that, between, in my deer hunting rifle anyway, so I don't really see the value in doing it. But I've got mates in New Zealand that spend close to $60,000 a year on reloading gear, whether that's brass, projectiles, powder, all of that stuff.
And what do they do, Zach? What type of hunter or shooter are they?
They're farmers and hunters, but they just, they're constantly reloading. He's getting 3-4 grand worth of powder every time it comes into the shop. As soon as it gets, yeah, it's ridiculous. But it just depends on how much you're shooting. Over there, they've got bigger deer issues than here, so they go out and shoot 30, 40 deer a night. And
yeah, so that's a different scenario right there, doing that culling rather than the hunter that's chasing one trophy a year, or a few meat deer a year, things like that. It's the same perspective that I've got. Could I justify it? I think that the one thing that I would get out of reloading is understanding how a projectile works better, the mechanics of it, why I would select one over another for long range versus up close. Could I use some of these subsonics for shooting around a dog, all of that sort of stuff? I think I'd get a lot of benefit out of that, but the cost benefit versus time, it just doesn't stack up for me.
Yeah, look, there's lots of different, I suppose, wheel spinning in that whole area. One is that not too long ago, factory ammo was pretty crap. It was. And so, but even then, from a hunting perspective, it was okay. But any kind of shooting, especially competition shooting, the factory ammo itself wasn't tolerances were so broad that you had issues like that. So even with a normal rifle, you could just like with Dylan's talking about tuning an arrow to a bow, you use reloading to tune ammo to a rifle. And also, it allowed you to play around with different projectile sizes, with seating, and so you could play around. You could put larger, smaller, move around like that, and so there was lots of, I suppose, what most people who reload is they're kind of like an enthusiast. They like it, it's so they're kind of experimenting and they're getting things right. So there's the I suppose the practicality of it, but there's also the enjoyment component of it. Because I know a lot of people who reload, and they spend a lot of time playing around. Then of course there's the people who basically shoot bulk. Mate shoots competition pistol, so he reloads and he'll sit down and kind of go, I'm reloading this weekend, and got reload literally thousands of rounds for the next season, because that's what he's going to burn through. So, and because he's shooting competition, he's shooting at a fixed range, he's basically detuning the ammo, so it does exactly what it does for a particular discipline. So that's what reloading does as well. for a hunter, you don't. That's not true. For a hunter, the option of quality factory ammunition is a very good option. Okay, and I got into reloading, and I hate saying this, about 35 years ago, because when I first started shooting, I started myself. I was a self-starter, and for my 21st, so it wasn't 35 years ago, it's 32 years ago, my mum said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want a reloading thing." And I got this rock chucker with the scales, and I went, okay, what can I make here? You know, and there's very good, you know, through luck, I hadn't blown myself up, you know, because I was just making stuff, and I was doing a 30-30. I was reloading 30-30, which at the time, you know, which 150 grain flat nose had no ballistic characteristics other than a brick anyway. So I was just loading up and seeing what I could get out of it. But it did, you know, it did give me a better understanding of ballistics and you know, projectile performance. More recently, one of the suppliers said, "We want you to test some ammo for us." And I said, "Sure." And I thought they were going to literally send me 2 boxes. They sent me 2 crates. So they sent me 1,000 rounds, 500 rounds. And I've still got like 400 of those things that I'm shooting out of my hunting. And that was a number of years ago. And a couple of years ago, they sent me more. So I've got a safe that's an ammo safe, and there's about 2,000 rounds of 30 cal in there, that for both hunting rifles, that, you know, I literally would have to take up professional shooting to burn through. So for me, there's absolutely no need for it to do it. But I mean, if you're a person who wants to go to the range and shoot lots, either reload, get into reloading, or buy a 223 or something like that, shoot that. That gives you the fun, the range shooting, because I did that for ages. I had a 223 that I only ever shot at range just for the fun of it. And for your hunting rifle, you'll probably find that, like most people, once you're dialed in your hunting rifle, you tend to kind of go, okay, I'll leave it like that. I might come back to it occasionally, might check it before I go out or something like that. But as you said, you don't really go through a lot of rounds in a hunting rifle. So good quality factory ammo is probably, you know, from a price point of view, you're probably going to have to buy a lot of factory rounds to off balance the cost of buying all that reloading gear.
Yeah, and I was paying somewhere between $85 and $90 for a box of 20 Hornady rounds that I was using for the Rim Mag, and I thought, oh man, they're expensive compared to the 270. But I was quickly stood up and said, this is the cheapest part of your hunting kit you'll ever buy, mate. $80 here when you've spent thousands of dollars on everything else. Forget about it, move on. Yeah. Which I did, which we shall. The other thing that you were alluding to before, Mark, in this ADA mag. And this is not a promotion for the ADA mag, by the way, but it just happens to have some good content in it. The unstated
He's in
pursuit.
it, mate. That's what it is.
There I'm sitting there. Look at this. It's me in the middle.
Good
it's
look.
Not about me. The unstated pursuit. If you listen to the Andrew Day podcast earlier on in our episodes, he talked about the mental health benefits of hunting and the great outdoors, and he got a write up in, you know, it's a 2-page write-up here in the Australian Deer Association mag. If you're not a member of the ADA, you don't get the hard copy, but you can go and download the app I see for free and get all the content anyway. So go and download the Wild Deer app. I was sitting up in the high country in Victoria chasing sambar, and I got a ding on my phone. I looked at my phone, and it was an email that popped up that said you can now download the app for the Australian Deer mag. So I did, and I sat up there and read the latest article while I was waiting for Sambar Joe to come out and get nailed. Didn't happen, but I read the mag. In that also, for your interest, Zach, is a article on bow fishing.
Awesome.
So as a segue that we were looking for, about you, maybe you'll get something out of that for free on the app. Mark?
Yeah, let's talk about bow fishing. And this is purely selfish because I want to get into bow fishing. So I thought, what do I do? How do I do it? I know someone runs a Facebook page called Bow Fishing Australia. There we go. So Zach, tell us about bow fishing.
Well,
Well,
Zach, tell us about yourself. Oh no, Mark. Zach's questions.
Look, let's move on. We've already been talking enough. Let's get into bow fishing.
I wanted to hear the questions.
Oh, okay. We're going to do the questions. Okay.
shoot,
okay,
go the questions,
okay,
man.
Questions.
Rapid
This is
fire.
new. This is very, very new. No, it's not rapid fire. I don't work rapid fire. This is new. Okay. Let me find them. That's why I got my glasses on so I can read them. Okay. So, gentlemen, what is your favorite song playing on the radio or whatever, device on the way to a hunt? You're driving on the way to a hunt. What's your favorite song?
I'm digging a song called Family Tree by, can't remember his name, but it's a country hunting.
Family Tree.
Quick, he's writing that down. He's good.
I'm going to answer this question as well. The
Yeah,
River by Blue Saraceno.
Okay, there you go.
It's a great song. I'll probably pronounce it wrong, but
Yeah, Family Tree by Dylan someone, I believe.
Okay. Most recent worst purchase.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can be a bit stingy at time. I do a lot of research before I buy something. So
Yeah. What about you, Anne?
I'm thinking. I got nothing.
I bought.
I'm the same.
The reason I did this one was I just did a new stereo in the car, and it's got voice activation now, but it came with reversing camera. I just never look at that thing. I'm reversing and like this light flashes on. I go, what's that? Oh, it's that bloody camera. Just because they said, oh, do you want a reverse camera? I said, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Just completely oblivious to the thing when I'm using it. Mirrors, looking out the window. So yeah. So next question. To move the thing then. Yeah, you've thrown me. Okay. Do you drink coffee?
yes,
Do you drink petrol
Lots.
station coffee?
yes.
Does it have to have caramel in it?
It has to be petrol
Just
station
to
coffee.
mask the
It
flavour?
has to be one of those petrol station coffees. That's it. And if there's a barista in that petrol station, it doesn't count. It's got to be out of one of those things.
The machines,
That's it.
Not a chance.
the
That's
$3 large coffees.
That's it. That's tough. Okay. So we've got a yes. If you could hunt with anyone, past, present, or future, they're alive, who is it?
Probably a pretty common answer would be the Stephen Ranella or probably Ben O'Brien.
I don't know. Ben O'Brien. Who's Ben O'Brien?
So he used to have a podcast. He used to work for Meat Eater. He used to have a podcast called Hunting Collective.
Oh,
and he's got one coming out soon called Woodside. And also he's got another one called Hunter and Vegan. So he's going to be having philosophical discussions.
That'll be
explosive.
That'll be very explosive. Yeah.
It's going to be really good.
Okay. What about you?
I'd want to hunt with my dad.
Oh, there you go.
Unfortunately, he passed away when I was a young boy. I was 13, but he was a deer culler in New Zealand during the deer culling days, and he would have a howl of a lot of stories to tell. He was one of those blokes that would own a campfire story. So I'd love to go back and
helicopter onto a few backs.
Oh, no doubt.
Back then.
No doubt. It's a wild
Those
man.
crazy Kiwis.
Yeah. Ham and cheese toasty, tomato or no tomato?
Tomato, 100%.
I'm going to say however it comes.
Oh,
Because
okay.
normally when I'm chasing a ham and cheese toasty, it's desperate days.
Okay. There we go. That's the 5 deep and meaningful questions that we need to have.
Feel like we know you now, Zach.
That's it.
Service station buckets of coffee.
All about the caffeine, man.
Yeah.
Only thing that keeps me going.
Okay. So let's segue from service station coffee into Zach telling us about yourself, your hunting, and of course, ... bow hunting, fishing.
So I'm a 28-year-old hunter from Adelaide, South Australia. I've been hunting longer than I can remember. I first started going out, probably 3-4 years old with my grandfather. My parents split when I was quite young, so I'd go stay at my grandparents' house every fortnight. So grew up fishing, hunting, shooting. You know, I couldn't even tell you the age I shot my first firearm because it's I would have been way too young. But
It would have been over 12. Let's say that.
Absolutely.
That's over 12 because
it's younger in South Australia.
Oh, okay.
So it's just over whatever that
That's right.
number
It's
is.
a day after the legal age.
This is a long time ago. But you know, I got out of shooting a little bit through my teenage years, and then I went out bow fishing with my dad, my biological dad, and yeah, I just got the hook and passion again for hunting and all things archery, all things bow hunting, and then progressed into rifles again. So I've got a mixed bag of rifles and bows. I think in this room here that I'm in, I've got about 13 bows at the moment and 7-8 firearms.
What's the go-to bow at the moment?
I've got a PSC NTN Evo 2018, I think. 70 pound. I think 580 grain arrows.
Yep.
So wow, that's man. I've just got into bows again, and yeah,
I've been watching, man. I've been watching.
Yeah. And but yeah, I actually
in half this fella.
Yeah, actually the guy down a few doors down the road, he's also a well, he stopped, but he's getting back in it because he's now got the range at our place, and he brought his compound, and I used a release aid the first time ever a couple of weeks ago. That's certainly very different. Yeah.
So was it a thumb release or a finger?
So upside down and kind of like a little trigger came down that way. So it wasn't one of those kind of round ones. No, yeah, it was like a little trigger came down.
Yeah.
On the compound.
Yeah.
How'd you find that versus the?
It was remarkably easy compared to an off-the-shelf recurve. You know, it took me like 3 arrows to figure out the pins.
Yeah.
I went, oh, okay, because he said put that pin on there, and it wasn't right because he, just simply because we're different height and all that stuff. But once I figured out, oh, okay, that means that, you're starting to slam them in. So yeah,
a little bit faster than the Recurve, eh? Yeah,
it also shoot. Yeah, it felt very different. The whole lot felt very, very different. The release aid was really weird because I was kind of over conscious of touching that trigger. So, I kind of was doing this weird kind of getting every finger out of the way so I didn't touch it until it was ready to go because I was surprised how light it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very, very interesting.
You're a brave man doing it in town. When I bought my first compound, I had a little range in town and we had corrugated iron fencing all around the yard. Felt safe. But when one of them accidentally went through the corrugated iron, 2 layers of corrugated iron, stripped the fletchings, went straight across the road and through the neighbour's corrugated iron fence and somewhere into his yard, which one day he delivered back to me once he realised that I was the bow guy. Oh, I freaked out and stopped shooting in town. It's just...
Yeah, always make sure you got a good backstop.
But even if you do, if you're 3/4 drawn and your D-loop lets go or something inevitably happens and off she goes.
Man.
Yeah, a D-loop letting go is not fun. I've struck myself in the face a couple times.
It's my version of a flinch with a rifle because it smacked me in the face a couple of times, and now to the point where I went, stuff this, I'm going to go get a recurve. It's less dangerous. I can't, have cables coming off cams and all of that. It's just not going to happen. I'm nearly scared of it, but I picked it up again recently, and I love shooting it, but in the back of my mind, I'm always ready to cop a fistful.
Yeah. It's not.
My eldest wants one, and I said, "No, you can buy that yourself. I'll buy you a recurve bow."
I got a nice little compound here that we got for my 7-year-old for his 5th birthday. He hasn't picked it up too much, but it's a decent little bow for the price. Little compound.
Yeah,
got a little suction cap one for Christmas for my 4-year-old, and he goes out into the shed and shoots the fridge.
My almost 2
in front of it
just
and nails the fridge.
my almost 2-year-old, he just got a suction cap bow too for Christmas.
Oh, what are you saying? My son's slow developer.
No, my boys, no, they're not slow, mate. They're just building up to it.
Not 2-year-old archers.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, I took my boys when they were fishing it too, but not archery. Well, just I didn't have a bow, but no, we weren't thinking about that. We're fishing it too.
Ollie, my almost 2-year-old, he's been fishing since a couple months old. And I've got a backpack that he goes in, so I'll take him out checking the trail cameras, and I'll take the Recurve bow out, and don't expect to see much, but it's good.
No,
taking him out. He's got his little camos. I'll say to him, Ollie, go get your camos, and he'll run out to his room, grab his box of camos, run down to my hunting room.
Oh, Zave's the same. He loves it. He goes and gets his camo gear that we bought from hunting and fishing or something, and it's hilarious. Little brains.
Well, the eldest, he's wearing the fleece now.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I'm sweating looking at him going, mate, please. He goes, oh, let's go for a walk, Dad, up the bush. It's okay. He goes, and then the first thing he does is put on Crocs and a fleece camo top. And I just go, mate, put some shoes on and take that thing off. You're making me hot just looking at you.
My young boy in daycare, they talk about colours and rainbows and everything. What's your favourite colour, Zaid? I like blue. But my daddy's favourite colour is camo.
That's right.
Yeah, so whenever the 2-year-old sees anything camo, he's like, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It is very good. So to continue on, but I'm taking both for deer. Well, we're going deer hunting, and they're both coming along this year in June, July. So it'll be because we got a property down that we visit down in New South Wales. That's really good for them. It's got a little hut on it, so it makes life a lot easier. So I'm going to take both of them this year, see how we go. So I won't be hunting for the next 3 or 4 years. So I'll just be pointing them out and sending them a mate off. You go shoot them.
Well, I know. See, right or wrong, I did that last year with Mr. 3-year-old. We drove the 7 hours or whatever it was down to Nundle, had the camper, was there for a week in the state hunt camp, and I didn't get to go hunting because I was throwing rocks in the water all the time. What do you want to do today, son? Throw rocks in the pond, Dad. All right, let's go throw rocks in the pond. So we just about filled that pond up, mate. So we're running out of rocks. Well, anyway, so this year he said, when are we going hunting again, Dad? I said, well, I said, when it gets cold. But this year I've devised a plan, and I'm taking him on a pre-scout. I've got to go and get some trail cams up down in the forest. So I'm going to go down there 3 or 4 weeks before the hunt. He can come with me then, and he'll think that we've done it. He's not listening. Can't trick him.
No. My oldest is, he's very keen to hunt. You get about 3 hours out of him before he runs out of energy, but he's very keen for it. So he'll come out. He's quiet, and actually you can tell when he's getting tired because he gets talkative. So he starts getting noisy. But the youngest one, he's 7, and I think he's going to be he's a ball of energy. So I think I'll just be saying to Tim, mate, they're up there. You go. Give us a wave when you get on. We'll drive up and pick you up and bring the truck up and get them to haul the meat out. So it'll be interesting.
You'll have some help.
Yeah, and that's it. Big lads. I'm looking forward to the day that they can set up camp and drive me down and carry out for me and stuff like that.
I've found spotlighting is a great start for the young one. Like I've taken the 7-year-old out a couple of times. We took a nice fallow buck a couple of years back together, and that was really exciting. But he enjoys sitting in the car and going out spotlighting.
Yeah, that probably would work really now. Yeah, that would be
Put blankets and pillows in the back seat, snacks, donuts.
Oh, righto. Don't let your children listen to this. They'll put a warning on the front of this podcast.
That's right. Do not say this podcast sets expectations that you might not be able to meet as a father.
That's right. That's exactly right. Anyway, let's stop talking about that before we get in trouble. Where'd we get to? You went out with your father and went bow fishing.
Yeah. So went out bow fishing. Yeah, about I would have been about 16, and then had a pretty successful day. Probably 8 or 10 fish. Went back, started watching a bunch of bow hunting videos. A bloke called Casey McCullum from South Australia. he's actually taken both, like the whole Australian New Zealand slam with a bow, respectable animals from each one. Just an insane Australian bow hunter. So watching those videos just got me absolutely hooked.
Is he a YouTuber?
No, so he's got a little bit of YouTube, but he had DVDs back in the day. He's last time I spoke to him, he was a professional kangaroo culler, but I think his partner lives in New Zealand now, so he spends majority of his time over there. But I can understand. But yeah, so I just got hooked, started jumping on Facebook pages, just practicing with the bow, lots and lots, and yeah, just finding everything I could about everything, goats, fallow, everything in my area. Started finding hunting properties. My dad gave me a secondhand, old school secondhand compound bow. I went out and just took a fallow doe with a mate. Absolutely fluke, like just didn't know much about what I was doing, you know. But yeah, after that I got hooked. Dad gave me a better compound bow, and then started putting more time into shooting. Took a goat, and yeah, just more animals added up every year since, until I had kids.
Oh, and now it's slowed down, has it?
Just a little bit, but as soon as
Just a
they're
little
old enough, it's gonna ramp back up, I reckon.
Yeah, you can sort of sense that.
So-
and you're still down in South Australia?
Yep, still down in South Australia.
So with your I'm assuming that if you're in South Australia, you're shooting private property most definitely private property. Is so the what's the reg, or is there regulation around bow fishing in South Australia?
So bow fishing in South Australia is only the backwaters of the Murray River for carp during daylight hours. One of the rules is you have to be more than 50 meters away from someone else doing recreational activities, whether it's fishing, all of that, which is pretty easy to do. The backwaters, not many people are out there, so you get onto a good patch of carp during, September when they're spawning. You'll be on them all day.
And I see you shoot from a kayak as well.
Yep. Take the kayak out just to get to some of that deeper water. I got sick of trenching through shoulder deep water and drawing back the bow when you're shoulder deep in water, and then like doing yoga to shoot the fish. You're on.
So you shoot them horizontally, basically.
Oh, it's
Talk me through that. Talk me through that. That doesn't work in my head.
So
you're how deep in water? Shoulder
deep in water.
So your bow's underwater.
No, so I'm holding it above my head. I'm drawing like that, and then coming down the angle.
Trying not to get it
underwater, but just getting enough angle so I could shoot the fish off the surface, because carp tend to surface feed quite a bit.
Yeah.
And during the summer months, they'll have their back out the water like that. So if you get the right angle, you can kind of get that arrow through them.
That sounds cool.
Skipping the stone, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just have to get that right angle. Otherwise, you are skimming the arrow.
Are you shooting at compound or recurve when you do that?
Both. I've got 2 compounds set up and 2 recurves set up.
Okay. Is there a difference, or is it just you just got
speed?
You like gear? Okay. So the standard things, that difference between compound and a recurve.
Compound also, especially if you're bank shooting, you can draw and hold for longer, because the fish, they tend to go down and then back up, down and then back up.
Oh, okay.
So if you're in real murky water, which pretty much all the pretty much you draw, because they're ducking up and down, up and down, up and down, so you can hold it for longer. Where with a recurve, you can't really hold it as long as you need to sometimes. So. And also deeper water as well. So recently I went to a spot that had crystal clear backwater, because the Murray's got quite a bit of flow at the moment. But I was shooting fish 5 foot down, and I had the compound and the recurve. And yeah, I just couldn't get the arrow down deep enough with the recurve. Yeah.
Gee, that must have some refraction too at that depth. You'd be like, it's there, but I'm actually shooting over there type thing. That would be amazing.
So the best way to describe it is if you put a pencil into a cup of water and the pencil will be looking like that. So
Yep.
when you think you're low enough, aim lower. So
you must just get the knack of that after not too long, surely.
yeah,
It's like leading a bird, right?
exactly.
With the shotgun or a clay
Yeah.
target. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to it's okay when they're on the surface because it's not a big issue to aim lower. But as soon as they're under the surface, it's that fraction can be a bitch.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, and the deeper you go, it'd be really quite interesting. Because one of it's Michael, one of our listeners. Because he went down to Severn, he went to there's a I think it's called the Severn Weir or something like that. Yeah. It's a campground, but there's nothing there. It's just a space on the river that it's about 100 meters off the road, if that. You're just literally off the Bruxner Highway, and it goes down to a weir, which is actually you can drive across at the right if it's not flooded. But there was a heap of carp there, and he was saying, that you could see them. He sent a photo, and you could see them on top of the water, as you said. They're literally out of the water there. So I thought, oh well, there you go, because you now can shoot, or you can bow fish in New South Wales now in the backwaters as well.
So the very upsetting thing with that is, yes, they brought in freshwater bow fishing for carp in New South Wales, but in the same space they took away saltwater bow fishing in New South Wales.
Oh, okay.
So you used to be able to saltwater bow fish in New South Wales for sharks, stingrays, and other species.
Didn't know that.
So you can't do that anymore, from my understanding. So at the exact same time they've given you something, they've taken away from them as well, which is very upsetting.
I did not know that.
Did you do much of that yourself?
Saltwater bow fishing? Yeah. No, I haven't. It is high on my list. You're Queensland, aren't you, Mark?
Yeah.
So you can saltwater bow fish, from my understanding. So you can go out and target sharks and rays out in the salt flats.
Really?
Yes.
Man, because you go down the Broadwater, you're just stepping on stingrays.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what your full regulations are, but I know you can saltwater bow fish and stingrays. I'm not sure if you know John O'Roberts at all. He was from New South Wales. He's moved up to Queensland. He does quite a bit of saltwater bow fishing, and he makes stingray bites.
A very weird state. Because, you can't walk down the local park and just start shooting your bow and arrow. Can you?
No.
But you can walk out on the salt. You can go to a sports ground that has facilities and do it.
Yeah.
But you can just walk out off the beach and into the water and start plugging away at stingrays.
Yeah, I'm not sure how.
Don't know.
If you went, if you're on the Gold Coast and you just
down in Noosa, down at Doggy Beach. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's it. But when we go fishing with the boys, we go out in the boat. We usually go out in the Broadwater, which is right there in the coast. And and there's just, you go out low tide and you just stingrays. They're just everywhere. And some of them are fairly hefty too. You get a lot of the little dinner plate ones, but every so often I'll say to the boys, "Oh look, there's one."
Yeah.
And even when you're pumping yabbies, they're that prolific that sometimes they're actually between you and the bank.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. You'll be waiting a little bit, and you reckon, "Oh, I've actually got one between me and the bank. It's actually gone around me on the shallow side."
Well, now you know what to do.
Yeah, didn't know that.
Get a fishing reel. Make sure you look into the regulations of where you can and can't. A lot of times it's like mouth of a river.
Yeah.
You can't do it. It's very similar to spearfishing laws.
Yes,
Majority
I
of
would
the
assume so. Yeah.
You eaten stingray, Mark?
Yes, I have. Parts of it, not all of it. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's a very stringy meat from what I've had, but I've only cooked it up on a campfire on the beach. But yeah, from what I've heard, it makes phenomenal laksa. So the Asian soup.
Yeah, probably would do, because it's it's just that. Yeah. I said I've had it campfire, which is never never a great way of determining its real value, but yeah, I've done that a few times. You know, we've had stingrays and just literally prepped them up and cooked them on the beach. So
Straight on the coals, yeah.
Yeah, didn't know that at all. That's really weird.
Yeah, I've heard they taste all right, but I don't think I've ever tried them. I'll put it on the list.
Well, it is. I've got an older recurve that I want to try and turn into a bow fishing rig, and it was primarily to go down to Severn. But hang on.
So I've seen an actually really interesting setup for traditional bows and recurve guides that don't have a screw point for a reel on it. You get a piece of wood about yay long, and you screw the reel into it, lock it off, and then you just hold it on the front of the bow, and then you can shoot like that. I'll have to find the diagram, but
I can see how that would work. Yeah.
So yeah,
that's the dodgy way of doing it.
One of the big brands, and I can't think of their name now because I've been chatting to them. They make a
a leather strap that goes around.
It's kind of like it's a rubberized twin rubber strap that has just basically a plate with a mounting point into it, and then you just literally lash that to your bow, and then
AMS.
That's probably them, yeah.
Yeah, good rules.
Yeah, they got that.
There's an average Joe way to get into it, by the sounds of it, without having to go and buy specific bows.
There's lots of ways. You can turn an old water bottle into a front reel for a recurve. Not so much a compound, but yeah, there's lots of DIY ways of getting into it.
And am I right in understanding that Bow Fishing Australia is a Facebook page that you run?
Yeah, I started.
Okay, is that sort of stuff on there for me to find?
It can be.
Can be.
You ask the questions. I've got actually a guy in Queensland that's quite good, Josh Brown. He helps run the group, and he posts lots of stuff like that, how to get into it, and
interesting.
He sounds a man I need to talk to.
Yeah, I'll have to send him away on the group.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, the bow fishing is part of the R licensing now. Well, I don't know if it's part of the R license or whether it's just it's now legal to bow fish in New South Wales. Is that only for carp as well? Do you know? I'm assuming you can't go chasing Murray cod and things like that. It's
very similar to what Zach was saying. So it's backwater or whatever that. I don't even know what that really means, but it's certainly it's backwater, and it's for carp. Yeah, so it's seen as, I think, a pest mitigation.
Yeah.
Approach.
So backwaters are pretty much just so you've got the mainstream and then all the floodplains on the side of that. The mainstream are classed as a backwater. So that's what we call backwaters up down here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good, because when I first decided that I wanted to do some freshwater fishing in Australia, because everyone talked about freshwater fishing here, and you see Murray cod photos, and coming from New Zealand, the only thing I really caught out of the freshwater was a trout or an eel. You've got some pretty cool freshwater fish in this country. I decided to rig up, and because I travelled a lot for work and I'd cross rivers, and I said, I'll just pull up here and I went down on the side of this river underneath a bridge. They had all of this gear that I'd just gone and bought. I could see the fish doing exactly what you said they were doing. They were coming up and they were going down. I could have clubbed the thing to death with my shoe, but I couldn't catch the bloody thing on a line. Now, I reckon I could do it with a bow. This is exciting for me. We're going to have a crack.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of, that's my idea. That, I don't know if I'd get in this full time, but I'd love to. Well, I mean, there's a bow in my truck right now. Yep. So I'd like to have that bow to have a reel on it.
So
because it'd be a lot easier. Here we go. This is what we want.
Oh, crossbow fishing. Now
God.
So that's the bow set up there. So they're my fishing bows there.
Reels.
Crossbow.
It's just a
hunting bows.
Yeah.
Now are they Zach made rigs, or are they purchased specifically bow hunting rigs?
They're purchased. So the bow fishing reels are pretty much run all AMS gear by the looks of it. So 1 second, what I'll do for you.
Yeah, so that was my idea. Just have it in the truck. Oh, look at that. I'll just check this creek out. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. I'm
So,
allowed.
If you can see there, that's the reel. It mounts onto pretty much where your sight goes. So you can mount it onto a sight. So I still run a sight on here in case I run into rabbits and hares and foxes while I'm out.
And what you put and then you reel them in.
I'll carry another arrow.
You got a fox on.
But this one here is like a harpoon head. So it's got the 3 prongs open and close on there. Goes through the fish, opens out. Fish can't get off the arrow. It's got so pretty much you think of a drag setup. This has got a free-flowing drag the whole time until you pull in the lever, and then that's how you fight fish, and you wheel it in like that. But then you can also have a reel that mounts onto the front of the bow. That screws into where the stabilizer goes. That tends to be your more common one, cheaper one.
That's the one I've seen.
And it just spools off, doesn't it?
It just feeds out the front.
So how do you
like one of those kids reels that
you just hand over hand retrieve, do you?
Yeah, like a hand unlock, like a hand reel. You either put it down on the ground and just pull the line.
Yeah, that's right. You literally just grab the line and so you're not actually it's not a reel. It's just basically a line holder type thing.
But it works. You can get the bigger ones for the saltwater stuff. So if you were looking at doing the saltwater stuff, chasing the stingrays and the sharks, and
so with the a setup for a recurve, do you have to have an arrow rest? How does that work?
You can shoot off the shelf. There's a bunch of different ways. Depends if you've got like a more modern recurve or you've got a traditional style recurve. But most of the time you can just shoot off the rest. But I run a whisker biscuit on my recurve, so it just holds the arrow in nice.
But somehow still that ring's got to sit there in front of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. The arrow also has a safety slide on it.
Yeah.
So if you can see
that
line there, so that runs up and down the arrow, so that way it doesn't come back at you. It's not a fun experience if you get to the end of the line and then you see the arrow coming back at you. They're a 1200 grain arrow.
Oh, you'll end up like our mate Tony with something stuck through your hand.
Yeah, poor bastard.
Poor Tony. Oh, you saw Tony Gillahad's face.
Yeah.
Poor
I seen him.
Yeah.
That's one way to catch a shark. Use yourself.
Yeah, mate. That's right. I thought. I thought. Well, that's right. I love how he said. So when he got back to shore, they fished for a couple more hours. Even I drove all this way, so I might as well stay and have a fish before I
just cut it off and pull it back out. But
then he gets turned away for surgery because he doesn't have his results back yet.
Yeah.
Oh no! What COVID results?
Yeah. They wouldn't operate on the poor bastard because he didn't have his results, and he was like an hour into his drive there.
Right. Because the quality gear he's using, the bolt cutters wouldn't even scratch the hook. The old idea, you cut the hook and you pull it through. No way. That's stone.
It was a pretty solid hook.
Yeah. So he's just there.
Anyway, I wouldn't want that coming back at me.
No.
On an arrow shaft, that could be dangerous, right? So what sort of range do you tend to have on the spool?
Look, you can shoot 5-10 meters. Some people more, but I like hunting. I like to get close.
That is close.
Even with a rifle, I'm not shooting a deer under 200, over 200 meters with a rifle.
Yeah.
My most recent deer with the 300 was 80. So
that's pretty typical. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. If I can get close, that old saying, if you can get 10 meters close, get closer, keep getting closer, get closer. Yeah.
So I'll wade out into the water a lot of the times, and sometimes I'm 10 centimeters from the carp's head when I shoot. I've got the arrow.
Well, and they're not fazed by that.
Yeah, it's stalking, man. It's same aspect as stalking a deer. So everything that you use in hunting, you can use on hunting fish.
Fascinating.
But
yes.
The only difference is they get all the ripples of you walking. So if you're walking too fast or you stumble over, because you can't see what you're stepping on, there's rocks, there's twigs, there's all sorts. So like the amount of times I've waded into some muddy areas, I do not want to know what's in that water,
No, well, you're not in croc country, so
that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
But still, I didn't think. It's just an overview of it. I had no idea that there was more to it than plugging them from the banks of the river.
Oh, look, if you're getting into bow hunting, the one thing, like if I'm taking someone new out, the best way to vet them I've found is take them bow. And that's how I decide if I'm going to take someone actually hunting or not. If they can listen while they come out bow fishing, and they've got some idea of what they're actually doing when you come out, I've found the best way to vet them. But if you want to get into bow hunting and you can bow fish, get out there. Go bow fish.
Yeah.
Because you're going to learn how to hold, you're going to learn how to shoot, you're going to learn how to instinctively shoot better, you're going to work out ranges, how your arrow flies, you're going to work out how to stalk, you're going to, because fish can see you. If you're on the edge and you're moving too fast, they spook. They're like a torpedo through the water. I'm not sure if you've seen a carp take off in shallow water. It just looks like a torpedo shooting through the water.
Well, so I fished for carp in the UK back in '96. Because carp over there are like they're this really prized fish. Really they catch them and they gently ease them back in the water. And it'll be a fish that like 5 blokes have caught, and it'll be old Blinky or something. It'll have a name.
They all have the same.
Yeah, that's right. He's got this name, and we go put it back in the water, and it's just. And my one of my cousins was a carp fisherman, and they basically use like surf rods.
Yeah,
huge rods, and because it's so slow, it's kind of like in a lot of ways it's like how to get away from the family for the weekend. You go down to this, and they have big camps, and they put them out, and the stands have got little alarms on them.
Yeah.
So they put 2 rods out on these double stands, and they've got a little electric alarm that goes on the line. So as soon as the line starts going, it goes beep, 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 beep.
Some of them have flick backs. As soon as they get the rod flicks back, it's on a spring system.
Yeah.
So fish, but they spend thousands on chasing carp.
And they have, these tents that they're kind of open-ended tents, so they can kind of like a beach shelter, but more insulated. So they get inside there and they just sit down on the stretcher, and they just basically drink beer and watch the line and go out and catch fish. But my cousin, he was back in '96. He was more of a active carp fisherman, and he used to go pursue them where you weren't allowed to go, like in Botanic Garden and stuff. And I'll see if I can find it. There's a photo of me in this Botanic Garden sitting on a lounge, freezing myself, waiting to catch this stupid bloody goldfish come up that never turned up. And they got the little corn launchers going and all this stuff to get him in there, but they didn't turn up. But yeah, it's a different way of fishing, that's for sure.
It is, and they're very serious about their carp. They're a protected species over there. I made the wrong mistake by joining a bunch of UK carp fishing groups.
Oh yeah,
and posting a bunch of bow fished carp on there.
No good.
I got one photo of me, and I'm in front of 80 carp, just that we bow fished all on the bank. I got kicked out of that group pretty quick because they weren't happy. I'm like,
sounds like a really interesting community of people. I mean, I'd know a whole lot more about bow fishing if I was allowed into your group, but I haven't been accepted yet, so I haven't been able to look at your photos. Mind you, that's only like maybe 3 minutes old, my request. But I like to look at these things while we're chatting. What happens to the fish here? I understand that because they're a pest, you can shoot them, but you're not allowed to eat them. You're not allowed to put them back. You're not putting them back anyway when they've drilled a hole through the side. You are allowed to eat them.
Yeah. There's no laws on eating carp.
There are up here.
You're just not allowed to return them.
You're just not allowed to return them. You can eat them.
There were laws up here that you can't. Now, that may be wrong now, but the reason I say that is because I did a lot of work for a company out west here that had a lot of transient labour coming in, and like they bring whole families of people in from either Indonesia or Samoa or I'm gonna say somewhere Asian more than Ireland, and they were forever getting in trouble for pulling the carp out, even though they were allowed to pull them out of the weir. They weren't allowed to eat them. They had to club them and throw them. And that was the police were always calling this company saying, just politely, your boys are down on the weir again. They're not allowed to do it. I don't know if that's changed. I could be completely wrong, but I was quite sure that in Queensland you weren't allowed to eat carp.
I don't know about that one. I know you've never been allowed. The idea is what you were doing when you were fishing was you were pest control. So you got to get in trouble would be to return it to the water.
Yeah.
Even dead. The idea is it had to be up on the bank. You had to get it out of the water. So that was I didn't know about
So the red claw in the dams.
Didn't know about eating them, and you
got to pull them out. Yeah.
That's it. So I didn't know about eating them.
We might have our first new subject of the next podcast will be retractions.
Yeah, first off,
that'll be a long. That's going to be a long podcast.
But yeah, look, they're a delicacy through all of Asia. You can eat them. I've turned them into fish cakes. I've cooked them up for people. I've Kentucky fried them. That's like my go-to.
So they're good.
They're okay.
They're like they're like kind of a lot of freshwater fish. The flesh reflects the environment in which you find them in.
They're bony. They tend to be muddy. Like Germans, they'll brine them before they eat them, or they'll put them in fresh water.
Yeah.
Like I was one of the podcasts I did. His German background. He moved to America, but Christmas carp was their that's their big Christmas dish is carp.
Oh,
so
really? Okay.
These carp, and I'd put them in the bathtub for a month before they just soak them into the mud.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's it. Fish tend to taste like where they come out of. So as well, fresh saltwater fish always taste really good because they come out of the salt. But they're muddy.
It's like
I heard that. Yeah.
Purging yabbies,
but not so much with Murray cod, right? Are they because they're in a more of a flowing river?
So they're protected down here. We can't take them. We're not legally allowed to take them out of the water. We can target them, but we can't take them out of the water.
You need to come up to us. We'll take your cod fishing. And yes, catch and release is a great idea, but they're one of the nicest eating fish.
Oh, I bet.
And their skin crackles like pork crackling. Like they're a great eating fish.
I love golden perch. We call them carp down here.
But when you come to Queensland, from the daf.qld.com.au website, .gov.au website, carp are a Category 3, 5, 6, and 7 restrictive invasive fish under the Biosecurity Act. Using carp for any reason, such as eating or using as fertiliser, is not permitted in Queensland.
There you go.
Wow.
Can't eat them.
No, you can't see it. There it is. Proof for the listeners.
Insane.
There you go. Pause.
You could say
it's retarded. It's retarded.
That's insane.
Because they didn't want people. They didn't want people getting a taste for what was supposed to be a delicacy in other countries, and then restocking the waterways with an invasive pest.
No idea.
Was what I was told. But anyway, that's Queensland. We have the weirdest things. Go down the Noosa waterfront and plug away at rays, but do not eat the carp. Like they're dangerous. I wonder why you can't use them for fertilizer. Because that's what Charlie carp is.
Yeah,
they don't want people restocking the rivers.
Yeah, that's why people use them. Yeah,
they get used for craybait down here. They get used for crab bait. shark fishing because they're an oily fish.
Yeah.
So go
Yeah.
catch them in the backwaters.
And it's right. It'd be quite a good slab too. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you think about it, Mark, so we've got this this pest species in Queensland, and we're not allowed to utilise it. Sound like any other species we got?
Sounds like everything.
Sounds like every species that we've got running around in our bush and our rivers. Queensland's got some weird rules, and we'll just leave that at that.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of pests that we should be utilising that we can't, and the ones that that's it. That's it.
We'll get someone from DAF on to talk to us about it. That'll be a fun discussion. So bow fishing is great. I'm keen to have a crack at it. But outside of that part of your world, you're obviously a hunter.
Yeah.
Not just for fish. What's your preference? If you're not bow fishing, are you picking the rifle up, or are you still preferencing the bow for hunting deer and various other things?
Depends, man. Like if I need meat for the freezer, I'll grab the rifle. If I want the challenge of just going for a nice bush walk with a bow and hopefully running into a deer, I'll take the bow. It just depends on the weather, the winds of my property, all of that stuff. Coming up to the rut, I've got a bow only property, and then I've got one that I'll take bow and rifle, but it tends to be more open, so I tend to use the rifle more out there.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
I chase goats, I chase deer, rabbits, hares, foxes, cats. If you can see that there, that's a cat skin stubby holder.
Did you show that to the cat group you joined?
Yeah.
After being kicked off the carp group, I joined the cat lovers group and showed them my stubby holder.
Did I mention old mate and the dog on the last podcast?
No, I don't. Well, maybe you did, but I can't remember.
I won't say his name because he'd shoot me if I did. But I think the story went something like he was asked by a friend of his to put his pet dog down, and he basically said that you should go away. You don't want to be part of this process. It's your loving family pet, etc. I'll take care of it. He now has a husky skin on the end of his bed. Can you? That's a true story.
Can you imagine them kind of coming to his house and going, "Oh, I just need to go to the toilet," and open the wrong door up and going.
Also got this beauty here.
Oh, you're shocking.
So that's a cat skin cat hat.
Yeah.
Made by one of our famous South Australians, Barry from Kangaroo Island. He traps cats and
yeah, that guy. Yeah, I know that guy.
So that's handmade from him, same as the stubby holder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm quite vocally a cat hater to anyone that might want to listen. Like I said, my son went to daycare and said that Dad's favourite colour was camo. When they were talking about animal noises and dogs go woof and cows go moo, well, cats go splat or bang.
Neighbours,
they're the two noises.
Hats.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for you, Zach, that's kind of well, I suppose it's one of your claims to fame, isn't it?
Yes.
Through the cat culling, you following you were on one of those. I don't know if it was a current affair, but it's something like that, wasn't it? Where they followed you around and you got mentioned. Well, yeah, it was right, and you got mentioned on Joe Rogan once about killing cats.
Joe Rogan. I've been in the New York Times and Daily Mail.
You're truly famous.
Yeah, as a cat killer.
I had a global hate campaign. I got doxxed by Anonymous.
How did that go? Talk to us about that. How did that backlash
Tell that
go?
story, because that's a story worth telling.
That's hilarious.
All right, so it started off every good story. I was out bow fishing with my cousin. Went out, caught up with one of my friends in the Riverland in South Australia here. He's like, "Oh, I've got a property. We can go shoot rabbits, hares, foxes, and cats." I'm like, "Sweet. I hate feral cats. Let's go target the cats." So shot a bunch of feral cats. Proud as punch. Posted them up on Facebook, holding them up. By 2 days later, 1,500 shares.
Oh.
Week later, 10,000 shares, and it just skyrocketed. Next minute, I'm getting, 10,000 threats a week.
Death threats.
Oh, you name it. I was getting death. Yeah, I was getting 10,000 death threats a week over Facebook. Next minute, Anonymous has doxed me, so they tried putting all of my personal information online, home address, phone number, place of work, everything. Thankfully, they got it all wrong, but I still got it taken down through one of my hacker mates. Then my mum was friends with an ABC reporter, and he'd seen all this controversy, and he goes, "Oh, that's your son, isn't it?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can we do something with him?" So we've gone over to Kangaroo Island on the bottom of South Australia, just off the coast there, and they got a huge issue with the feral cats. We've taken the news crew out. I've taken my first shot. Missed a cat. Didn't get used. Walking through the scrub
with your bow.
With the bow.
But that's hard enough without a film crew behind you.
Oh, I was in way over my head. Walking through the scrub, spooky cat. My mate shoots it. Didn't go to plan as it.
I recall. I remember this.
I told him to use rubber bludgeons so that we didn't split cats in half and have blood and guts and gore. That's what I used when I shot the cats, and they dropped on the spot. But he was using a lower poundage bow than me, so it just hit the cat. It ran, doing cartwheels. Cats are a pretty hardy animal. He puts another arrow into it. It runs into the scrub. Both arrows have fallen out, and we spent time looking for the cat in the scrub. Couldn't find it with the news crew. So they've aired that. Then they've got a lady from the RSPCA, and she's sitting there saying, shooting feral cats is horrible. You should just sex them and let them go again. And she's got kittens running around behind her, and that's just blown up. Next minute, it's on Daily Mail, and I'm listening to Joe Rogan with Josh Sepps, and he's like, "Oh, there's this guy in Australia, and he's holding feral cats up with an arrow through the heart and big smile on his face."
So Joe Rogan wasn't a fan?
No, he loved it. He loved it. He hates feral cats.
Yeah,
as we all should.
Okay,
but,
now this was only a few years ago. This was
2016, so a couple years back. But
yeah,
it had
blown over, mate. You're off their radar now.
No, I'll still get a message, but I entertain them. They'll send me a message. I'm like, "Oh, thank you for your love and support." Every message I get, I get $1 towards hunting feral cats and taking them out of the, But even like the articles that came out, they're like, "Oh, this guy's getting paid for shooting all these feral cats." I'm like, "Shit, where's the money? I'm not getting a cent of this." Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Did you end up being able to turn it to your advantage? All of the action and activity.
I'm sitting here now, aren't
I? You are. We found you.
Exactly. But yeah, I never let it get me down. I
was going to say it could have been quite stressful.
I didn't take any of it to heart. There's these vegan people who are against violence, and they're soft most of the time. What are they going to do?
Cuddle you to death. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
But
wow.
Yeah, I used it to my advantage for some bits and pieces. A couple of years later, I did an article with a reporter from the New York Times. She flew over from Germany with a reporter from America, and we took her back out to Kangaroo Island and showed her around. Didn't get any cats, but got to go in New York Times, and there was another article.
They flew to Australia to do that.
Yeah. So it was a cool experience taking them out, showing them around the Aussie bush, and we cooked some venison up over the campfire with some marron and some kangaroo. And
where do we find this amazing content to revisit, review?
Google Zach Slattery, ZACH
Right, because it's after this podcast goes live, it's going to relaunch. It's going to happen all over again.
Bring it.
I like your enthusiasm, man.
I love it. That's
Man,
great.
yeah, it's a great story, mate. That's a great, as I said, and I have been following it. So yeah, it's certainly been interesting. And I mean, I actually remember the podcast where he talks about it, because it just came up in conversation type.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was talking about feral cats and the damage they do, and
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
All right. So outside of chasing those, what's on your hit list?
In Australia, everything.
Yeah.
Everything I haven't taken. I've taken 3 species of deer here, so 3 more to go. I've chased Seeker in New Zealand, but I was unsuccessful, so I'm keen to get back over there, chase Seeker, tar, chamois, work on all of them. A couple years back, I hunted Texas and Mexico, so I took
nice.
whitetail, Aoudad, javelina, rattlesnake, raccoon. So I've got a few of those North American species off the list, but I've still got, black bear on the list, elk, pronghorn antelope.
You've got quite a list. Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as we can get out and travel again.
100%.
Although it's getting easier, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've seen today, unfortunately, they canned the Deer Expo in Bendigo.
Did they?
Yeah,
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
which
It's always in our red deer season.
Yeah, it's always a well, the board meeting was supposed to happen around that event as well. So, but yeah, it's always a time at red deer, and I'm actually committing time to red deer rut this year. So tomorrow, so starting tomorrow, I'm going up and putting the trail cams up tomorrow. So I'm
awesome.
excited.
Yeah, I've been invited out to my first actual proper red raw hunt. So I've taken a couple of spikes and a hind. So I've been invited with my last podcast guest, Josh Haynes. So I'm pretty keen to first weekend of April to go chase some roaring reds.
And whereabouts is that?
Southeast of South Australia.
Yeah.
Okay, still down South Australia. Yep.
Yeah.
So you've not been in and amongst roaring reds?
I have been, but
you have
successful. So
okay, but you've been there. You've felt the energy of it.
Oh,
it's an incredible experience.
It's insane. So I went out with a couple mates, similar area to where I'm going. We were filming. I had my bow in my hand. Mate had a rifle, and we were chasing around the scrub all day and roaring, getting roars back, and we'd given up for the day and just pushing through the scrub, making a hell of a racket. And next minute, I hear this just stumbling and trees crashing next to me, and I've turned around and there's a red stag just 10 meters away, but I've had my release aid in my pocket. I've had a camera and tripod in one hand, bow in the other. I'm like, my mate's just swung the rifle around and dropped it.
Yeah, it's a hard gig when you're trying to self-film and do all of those sorts of things. I did quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to get out of it, and I say that I've been lucky enough to take, enough not to need to shoot everything that walks in front of the rifle anymore. Yeah. When you first start this stuff, you go into a park, because just about everything that I do, I try and do on public land. I'm not really trying to go on private properties. Each to their own. I don't mind if people do it. It's just
we don't have the choice down here, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Well, we don't have it up here either. I travel interstate to do it, and that's fine. But now I'm probably more interested to take the camera and just do the video work while someone else is doing the hunting, because you get the same experience. Yes, you might not get to do the shooting, but as you know, that's just such a minute part of the whole process.
Yeah,
if you're there, part of it, and you're videoing it, it's still amazing. My first red deer experience, before I even knew there was a thing called a raw, was when I was just a young fella. I was out with my uncle. We're actually traveling with my family, and we stopped in to see my uncle, who was a military man. And he said, "Well, while you're here, I'm going deer hunting tonight if you want to come." And I just looked at my mum, and she said, "Well, go on then." So righto. So off we went. He gave me some army boots and some fatigues and bits and pieces, and off we went up into the bush for the evening. And it was the next morning, so we woke up. We were up on this ridgeline the next morning, and it was so foggy you couldn't see anything. But there was reds roaring all around us, and we zeroed in on one, and I'm just following my uncle along, and you could feel the heat of the deer. You could see the mist swirling as it bellowed in front of you. So it was within meters of us, but I never saw it. And that just that roar through that mist, just absolutely flattening you, but I never got to see the animal.
See if this works for you. I got a.
So that's from what?
So that's my soundboard for my podcasting stuff. So I've got a red fallow seeker roars on there, just
As a professional.
Yeah,
just got a soundboard.
I've got that on my phone. I've got 10 seconds of roaring on my phone because, and I use it when I go on. When I'm up there, I'll run the phone.
I've got 3 seconds of roaring on my phone, and that's from a trail cam video of a red deer that was chasing a hind. But that let's use that to move to the next subject. You've got a podcast.
Yes. So I run a podcast called Hunting Connection Podcast. I've just started, just done the 4th episode.
Yeah. What's its goal?
It's what? Sorry.
What's the goal of the podcast?
Just connecting hunters, chatting to, because through social media, I've chatted to lots of amazing hunters from all around the place. Australia, New Zealand, England, America, Mexico. So all of these people, I'll eventually get on the podcast and chat about where they hunt, how they got into it, what their beginner tips are. It's a bit more scripted than your guys' podcast, but just covering basic topics and find out what people think. Hunters how they're perceived with the general public, and how can we work on this and stuff like that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And would you say you're up to the 4th episode? So just launched it, really? Yep.
Yeah, just launched it. So
yeah. And what medium's it on? How do people find it?
Spotify, iTunes. I've got an Insta for it, Hunting Connection Podcast. All of the social medias.
Awesome. I'll have to look that one up. We'll chuck some links on, and follow that one around for sure. Well, we might even flog a guest or two from you.
Yeah, 100%. That's I've already done it from another South Australian hunting podcast, Send a Mate podcast. So
yeah, no, it's all right. That's good.
Here you go, guys. Here's my one. Okay.
So good.
That's when I use I got that up. I literally used that last year on this little what I call roughy. It was this little angry little 3.
Yeah, man. I wish we had more reds around my area. It's just fallow and the odd roaming red spike.
Well, I'm looking at my 5 from.
I can see the reflection behind.
Yeah, I can see 5, and next to him is the fallow I got from last year as well. So they're up on the wall. So yeah, I wouldn't mind see if I can find something bigger this year. But and so the camera will tell me. There's a lot of first year spikers up there actually.
Okay, so without necessary. Oh well, let's go with this then. If you like cooking venisons, what is your favourite species of venison to eat?
So
first question.
Had a few different species. I've had seeker, red deer, fallow, whitetail, rooster, chittle, and sambar.
Okay, let's refine my question down to Australian species.
All right. So from what I've had, Australian species, chittle.
Oh, that's it. Yes, tick from that's it, I reckon.
My favourite.
Chittle's the best. Now, how's Chittle different to fallow? Is it different? Fallow's quite a it's an easy venison to start somebody on.
It is, but I would say Chittle is it's a less gamey flavour. It's a lighter colour.
Than fallow.
From what I've had anyway.
Huh.
But it also depends on what they're eating as well,
Mm.
You you can have 2 different deer from the same area, but they might
Back
be.
to what Mark was talking about before. You could bow shoot one and then just freak it out by going up with, too early, and then all the adrenaline pumps through it, and you've not spoilt it, but you've changed the meat.
Also skinning it. If you shoot something in the rut and you run your knife through a gland, you keep running that gland through the rest of the meat.
Mate,
that can contaminate.
You keep taking. Look, when we're in the UK and we were shooting pigeon, and most people think a pigeon's a pigeon, but there is differences in them, and because you're shooting a number of pigeons and then you're just breasting them, so you get them back and you've got 20 bird breasts. You realise that was the best indicator of variances within an individual animal within the same species, because you just get one and go, oh, it's chewy, that one's perfect, and it was older, it got shot different, something was slightly different in basically the same animal, but you get this different, age, whatever it was, but you get this different effect out of the meat. So, and you do them all like medallions, and you just kind of go, oh, that one's perfect, that one's a bit chewy, that one's a bit gamey, that one, it just went right through. And I noticed in the UK, fallow's better in the UK than it is here.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Really?
Oh,
I love the fallow deer up here.
Oh, it's got fat on it.
I don't know where you're getting your fallow from.
Man,
anyway,
so good.
Anyway,
let
me go back to Zach. I've heard enough about pigeons in the last 2 episodes.
Hey, they're an underrated eating animal.
Oh, man.
Mark's going to cook me some. Well, we did talk about this. You said you're no cook, so
no.
Anyway, we'll find someone to cook a pigeon.
Just do him some poppers. Do the pigeon breasts in some jalapenos with some cream cheese and wrapped in bacon or barbecue.
Let's go back to venison. Chittle is your favourite because it's more subtle. I'm not going to argue with that. I haven't had Chittle, so I just find fallow very subtle. What was your next on your list?
Samba.
And that's a very different meat altogether.
It is, but Chittle and Samba are both Indian species. You look at we got hog deer, Chittle, and Samba. They're all Indian species, and then we got reds, fallow. Also, rooster being Indian species, and then we got reds and fallow. So they're the European species. So of course they're going to taste different because they're from different parts of the world. From what I've heard, hog deer is the best eating deer we have in Australia.
You just wouldn't share it.
Just wouldn't share it.
It's just not. It's not as much to go around.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then out of those species, so if you've got your Chittle, which is your favourite, what's your go-to meal? Which cuts? I mean, there's some obvious cuts that we all like over others, but what are you cooking for someone who's coming to try venison?
Probably a rib roast. Tomahawk rib roast. So I'd get both back straps, ribs. I'd section all the ribs out, all the conjoining bits of meat out of the ribs, put them together in like that.
The Frenched, yep.
Yep, and just put it in the barbecue. I'd actually probably sous vide cook it first, so have it in a sous vide cooker for about 8 hours with some herbs and spices in there, keeping it nice and rare still, and then just crisping it up on the Weber. Maybe put some wood chips in there, some red gum.
Now that animal is probably going to be one that you've managed to spotlight from the car, because it's not the easiest thing to drag an animal out with the ribs and backstraps still intact. The old hunter's cuts normally rip that off, the backstraps off the back and the back wheels off, and off they go. Leaving the backstraps on the ribs and getting that out of the bush is more of a hassle than some people are prepared to play with.
I got a 75-litre backpack, so that whole deer is coming out with me. I'll do a lot of deboning in the field. I'll take all the organ meat, caul fat, kidneys, heart, tongue. All of that comes out with me. So, and if I can get the car in, I'll take it.
Good on you. Okay, the opposite question is, what cuts are you going to give away when someone asks for some venison?
Look, I'm not a selfish bugger because I shoot it for myself. So I'll give them some prime cuts because that way they're more interested into getting into the sport, and I don't like calling it a sport, more like a lifestyle. and it's more likely that they're going to actually want to get involved, and then that grows our numbers. So, backstrap, tenderloin, the good stuff.
You're a good fella to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to say I'd only give away the shoulders for the opposite reasons to what you just mentioned. But we were on a trip not long ago, and one of the guys that came up cooked up a couple of shoulders in this dodgy old oven in this dodgy old house where we were staying as we were hunting on this property. And I think it only slow roasted so well because the oven didn't seal properly, so it couldn't get up to temperature. And it was the most delicious shoulder, just so well cooked. He knew what he was doing. But I always swore I'd never give the shoulders away again either, so I was running out of parts. But good on you for giving away the nice stuff. That does get people.
Cooker, man. Shoulder straight in the slow cooker with some tin tomatoes, some sauces, and then serve it up on rice.
Yeah, this was different again. He was basically just the whole shoulder in a shallow pan with stock halfway up it. All of the rib flap got sliced up into chip-sized pieces and put in there because that cooked first, so you could basically chew on those bits as the rest of it was roasting away. It was just unreal. And we had a party of about 6 or 7. He put 2 shoulders in the oven. 6 or 7 of us sitting around after hunting, and it was amazing. It was shoulders underrated.
So, have you guys played around with having bone broth?
Yeah.
So I take pretty much all the bones out, like I said, femur, shanks, all of that, and then I'll turn that into bone broth.
Just
freeze
it.
I'll either drink it on a cold winter's morning, just like a coffee, heat it up, just drink it straight out. Awesome stuff. Or I'll use it for cooking and then refreeze it after cooking, and it kind of like concentrates it. But if you chuck a roast, on the hind leg, you take one of the bowl of roast or whatever out, chuck it in the slow cooker, and you do some pulled venison. And then that concentrates the bone broth. You refreeze it, even better to drink than the next day. But yeah, pulled venison that way is pretty good too. Pulled venison burgers and.
Yes, our good friend Andrew Day, who we talked about earlier, makes a dinner he calls vegan converters, which is I'm pretty sure it's probably any part of the rare rumps or rounds or what have you, but he basically just slices them wafer thin and then wraps a piece of cream cheese or blue cheese in that, and then just quickly 2-second fries it off on the barbecue, and they're amazing. There's so much you can do with it. It's a super healthy and versatile meat.
It is. It's great. I love heart. Heart's probably one of the first cuts I actually eat. That and tenderloin. So I'll cook. I'll dice up the heart, dice up tenderloins, onion, chili, mushroom in the pan.
Yeah. Have you cored the heart and and done stuffed heart, things like that?
Done stuffed heart, no.
Yeah, that's something I'm thinking of trying this time around. When we're in camp, we usually because most of the meat we're going to bring home, but there's that as you're cooking. I like to have something going, and it might be just backstraps or something like that, and just very thinly sliced straight on the heat while they're cooking. And you're just sitting there drinking a beer, watching it cook, while you have these little, medallions. And but we tried the heart a couple of times, and I'm still experimenting with it. Still haven't got it exactly how I want to get it, but I wouldn't mind like a stuffed heart.
Yeah. So schnitzels are another good option for it as well. You just kind of like core it and then cut it in half into your big open cut, and then crumb it. That's a great thing. But yeah,
that's not a bad idea at all.
You dice it with tenderloin, and I'll do kidney, mushroom, chili, garlic. Like I love my herbs and spices, so I coat everything in chili and garlic.
I actually think I'm just thinking about how the schnitzel idea is actually. That'd be
that's
really.
That's what schnitzel was. That in Germany.
That'd be really good.
Venison
that's an easy one to do at camp too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a good idea, mate. Very good idea. Can see my doing that one in June down at the fallow block.
What about tongues? You tried tongues?
Not deer tongue, strangely enough.
So
Had it.
I'll wait till I get 6-7 deer tongues in the freezer, then boil them, skin them, and do like some tacos or something out of them.
Tongue tacos.
Yeah, deer tongue tacos. There you go. You won't see that. You won't see that at
Sounds better than old Steve Rinella's foot tacos.
Yeah. Or head cheese.
Ugh, ugh, ugh.
Yeah, we've experimented a few times with things like that. We've sent the group out hunting for the afternoon. Whoever gets one, we want the tongues and the hearts. And they come back and they sort of go on ice, and the nicer cuts come out, and they don't really get dealt with because people are a little bit uneasy about what to do with it or how to deal with it. And one of the boys not long ago posted something up. He said, "I've mastered tongue. He's got it sorted." So we're all looking forward to how that's actually going to come out, but I'm sure it's nice. I mean, ox tongue and things like that we had as kids. So
yeah.
There's no reason it shouldn't be every bit as good.
Well, they were the parts that were eaten first back in, caveman days. It was the liver, the heart, the tongue.
Oh yeah, because it's the highest level of nutrient in them. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. The muscle meats were the bits that went to waste.
Yeah, that's it. There's actually I was reading this once. I was talking about where you get the caribou migration. They were so plentiful that they would actually just go kill them and just cut the tongue out and leave the rest there. Because skinning was after they'd skinned 10. That was all the skins that they could use / carry.
Bison too.
That's right. So they would just go. They're so plentiful. They just take tongue and cuts like that. Which it's funny, isn't it, how they became the kind of cut that no one wanted.
I think it's the name for them. Offal.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like people,
but it's like using the word feral.
Yeah.
Instead of game, all of a sudden it's feral. Well, why would you eat a feral goat?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
goat's amazing.
That's right. And if there's one meat that can basically stand up to any condition, it's goat, isn't it? They just, for some reason, they just are impervious to just about everything. So
you chuck it in a curry and you can feed it to anyone.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the most
freezer full
in the world.
That's right. I think carp is the most plentiful meat in the world, and goat is the most plentiful red meat in the world. Yeah, or it's actually not a carp, or it's a type of carp. There's a fish in the Mekong Delta that basically is every fish cake, crab cake, fish finger that you eat is basically out of
tilapia.
It's a fish in the Mekong Delta there that they literally pound into literally millions of tons of things that turn up to crab cakes. Yeah, crab cakes and everything else. Yeah.
You guys have them up in Queensland.
Yeah,
too, so
yeah.
I think you can bowfish, from my understanding.
Probably not allowed to eat them.
I can't get over that.
Yeah, it's a useless fact I had in the back of my brain. I've got a couple of them. They surface from time to time.
Yeah, tilapia are quite common, especially actually just over at not too far from here. There's in the North Pine, you see a lot of tilapia. So they're there.
I still can't get over that carp thing. We need to write some letters.
Well, there's so many letters we've got to write up here, and hopefully we'll highlight some of these little things and we'll get it sorted out. But that could take some time.
100%.
Right. Meanwhile, we've burnt through a couple of hours of discussion.
We have.
We'll call it to a close here. I want to make sure that we put up the links to. So we've got Bowfishing Australia.
Yep.
Hunting Connection podcast.
Yep.
Zach Slattery, the cat slayer.
Yep.
Yeah. Cat man.
And your other social media bits and pieces we'll grab off you and we'll put them up in the link for the description of the podcast. And I just want to say thanks. That was a lot of fun. I learned a lot that I did. I didn't know. Like I learned a lot I didn't know, and
Thanks for having me.
you've also joined the dots to a bunch of things that I do recall seeing, like the cat stuff.
Yeah.
And now I know that that's you. You're a man of many talents. And yeah, if you do make your way up to Queensland, or we find ourselves down your direction, I'm keen to try one of the Zach specials from whatever game meats it is that you think is
that's
the right flavour to eat. You've got some
100%,
pretty cool
come
ideas.
down.
You need
I've
to
got
write a book.
The spare boat. No, I can't write. I'm too illiterate for that. That's why I started a podcast.
Oh, fair enough.
I'm not like Mark,
Well, maybe you could do a descriptive recipe once a week in your podcast
Yeah.
that we can all follow. That'd be great.
Right.
Yeah, mate. That's it. That's it. That's it. I think that move to cooking is the next big step, because it just keeps moving it along from the idea of it's a pest, so you're doing something there, but then your utilization, then actually enjoyment. I think that's a significant part of
Since COVID, the whole sustainability factor has jumped in. Every man and his dog's like hunting all around the world has just skyrocketed, because of that field to fork, paddock to plate mentality.
It has, but it's where the hunting part's still a bit kind of, bit spooky and all that, unfortunately. So like there's an environmental group here in my local area, and they say we're going to do this, and I said, there's just deer up the road here. Why don't we do something about them? Oh, hang on.
I get messages from California, from all these American states, Canada. How do I get into hunting? So there's me like, oh, what area are you in? And then I go find a friend, like, go chat to this person. They know the regulations. And
oh yeah,
there's heaps of people just since the whole COVID thing. Everyone wants to get into
we get them all the time as well through our clubs and the new members that come along. When you get to talk to them about what their motives are and what they're trying to do, more than half of them are trying to find a more sustainable, free range, untampered with, go get it yourself type protein.
100%.
Yeah. It's also, I think, that the lifestyle component too. It's a free range life rather than just a food.
It's meditation. It's church. I'm not a religious person, but I feel like I'm in a church when I'm out hunting. It's just out with nature.
It's interesting you say that, because I was out at the Pilliga it'd be nearly 2 weeks ago, Mark, and I had a fellow with me who's it was his first hunt ever, not just state forest hunt, but his first hunt ever, and he was lucky enough to take his first animal on that hunt. Incredible. Which was just an awesome thing to put him through. It's like taking my own first one all over again, but being able to to get him there, to prepare him to get there. We drove there, we set up camp, we looked at maps, we did all of that, and we went to a spot. Mark and I have spoken about this spot before we went there, and it looked likely, and obviously Mark had been there before. First day we were up there, and there was an opportunity, and we took it, and it was awesome. So he went through that whole process, but over the course of the week, he got to unwind completely as well, because he'd managed to take that on the first day. And then we had the rest of the week out there looking around and doing stuff. And he pulled me up at one point on this, rocky outcrop that we found in the middle of nowhere. And he said, "You're so right about what you were saying, before we came out here. When you're hunting," this is what Andrew was saying, when you're hunting, you're so immersed in what you're doing, all of your senses are engaged, everything is going, you forget about all of the troubles and things 100%. That are you've left behind you, and it's your meditation, it's your church, like you say. So the more people do it, the better, I say.
100%.
It's I always think that people ask about it, and I said, actually, you realize it's not I'm turning off, I'm actually turning on.
Yeah.
Things that don't work are now firing again, and you kind of go, oh, look, this is what smells actually, this is what this smell is for. This is what this is for. All of a sudden you actually, and it takes some time to get there, but you actually go, yeah, things are working properly now. I'm processing in real time lots and lots of inputs that are uncontrolled inputs, rather than everything being brought to me in a sanitized way, or a sanitized format. So I'm actually turning on I'm getting better at what I am rather than kind of going the other way. So when I remember when we saw rockfish, people go, how do you stand there and do nothing for 6 hours? And I go, I'm not doing nothing. My brain is going full time. Everything is going. My whole life is going down that fishing line, waiting for that thing to move. I'm turned on, not turned off.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're out hunting or fishing, and you're like, I bet you I'm not the first person to walk down here and hunt something. There was someone here standing where I'm standing 1,000 years ago doing the exact same thing I'm doing.
It's funny you say that.
Hunting different game, but
we found this really interesting rocky outcrop in the middle of the scrub, and as we walked up to it, there's this big cave and it's full of goat crap. It's just this big open cave. I thought, far out. Wonder how many people have been here. And more than once, you walk through the bush and you think, oh, I wonder if I'm the first person that sat on this log. As I'm walking up there, I'm thinking something similar. I wonder how many people have found this. There's the graffiti in the rock. Andrew, 1930. I thought, okay, well, it's been a little while, Andrew, but we found it again.
It's like I got taken out hunting when I was in New Zealand on the North Island out near Port Waikato, and I got taken up into the hills, and they had all the big dugouts where they'd cooked all the shellfish and all the seafood, and like just walking through there, you could feel it, like it was, just incredible.
Most certainly is. There's actually a boar ring just up on the hill behind us here, so who knows what happened there over how many millennia. So it's around, it's everywhere. It's just not on TV.
It is.
Okay. What do you reckon, guys? Are we done?
Yep,
we'll call it for tonight.
Okay, well, Zach, mate, it's been a pleasure, mate. It really is. And I remember Ian a couple of days ago was saying, "Oh, who's this guy we're going to talk about?" And I said, "Oh, mate, this one's going to be a good one. He's got some stories." And I fondly remember the great cat debacle.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great that you had some chance to get some perspective on it and put it in its proper place.
Oh, it's helped me grow. It's helped me become who I am. I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have the perspectives on hunting and anti-hunters and hunters as I do today without it.
No,
probably wouldn't have the hat either.
That's right, and the stubby cooler.
Yeah, it's kind of a party trick. I'll take the stubby holder and the hat out to a party with me, and it's always a conversation point.
So again, mate, thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure. I know.
Likewise.
As I said. So I reckon we need to talk again sometime soon in regards to cooking, though.
Yeah, not a problem.
That's the next one. And you obviously sound like you know what you're doing, but I certainly don't. So I'm keen to learn.
Good stuff. All right, Zach. Appreciate it, mate. Catch you next time.
Thank you for having me.
You too, buddy.